We're studying Saturn in the 25th degree of Aquarius. Just moved in today. Aquarius 25, a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed. There is a state above duality where we can hold two opposing emotions. Transforming emotionality into spiritual wisdom, what we experience as emotions is normally quite disturbing to our sense of peaceful poise. Yet for those who have worked on themselves, these energies can be transmuted. The sense is here suggested that when the heavy drag of emotionality is released, an individual can mutate to a more aware state of perception. It is not entirely unlike the expansion of consciousness that goes hand in glove with the opening of the third eye. So it's all about rising above emotion to attain spiritual wisdom. As we explore our own idiosyncrasies, we have to deal with those of others. Now obviously it's a very strange image, a butterfly with the right wing more perfectly formed. The suggestion of mutation is the key here, that we can actually raise our game. And we do this by moving out of the imprisonment of our emotionality. First of all, get the concept right. A lot of people treasure their emotions and they think of them as special and important and theirs alone, and they really attach themselves and invest themselves in their feelings. A lot of people do this, and by far the most popular aspect of astrology is to look at how you're going to feel for a day or two around the full moon. The spiritual approach to this is not at all to indulge your emotions, but to raise yourself above that level, to mutate beyond the human condition of imprisonment within sentimentality and anxiety and wistful thinking, wishing, all of this stuff that gives the entertainment industry all of their wealth and gossips all of their material, all of this stuff. It's nonsense. It's just what we have to deal with. It's a clue as to what's wrong with us. It's not to be celebrated. It's to be worked with so that we don't have those problems anymore. And this is not only the negative emotions. It is also the lust for pleasure on whatever level we're talking. It is also the lust for position, pats on the head, and all of that stuff that drives most people. We've all got something going on like that. It's to be accepted and not judged as a bad thing, but on a spiritual path, it's certainly not a helpful thing. It's in the way. And what we can do is put ourselves above duality. Emotions have always got two sides, always, spanned over time. So if you're excited today, you'll be disappointed tomorrow. If you're depressed today, you'll be exhilarated tomorrow. And that up and down, that roller coaster ride that you're having through life, it will not bring peace. If you want peace, if you want to be calm, then you can't have the ups and the downs. It's just not that which reconcile with peacefulness. They can't be reconciled. Saturn, in the 25th degree of Aquarius, brings a certain quality of attention to this whole topic of emotionality and mutating, developing, evolving beyond emotionality. And Saturn brings with it a combination of clear explanation and finger wagging. Saturn tells us what doesn't work. Now that gets interpreted by all of these emotional people as blame. It's not the purpose of Saturn to blame anyone. It's just to explain, look, that doesn't work. Don't do it. That's what karma is. It's not a punishment. It's an explanation that you've done this wrong. Have another go. Trial and error. Sin and repentance. It's the same thing. It's just doesn't work like that. Try something else. Now that's what Saturn's mostly trying to tell us. Because of our conditioning and our parents' conditioning and our parents' conditioning and so on, back through the ages until a relatively enlightened period such as now, we're evolving only in recent generations, not my parents' generation. My generation began to awaken, and I can see that younger children are already a lot more awakened than was imaginable in my parents' day. So this awakening process is occurring, this mutation to the higher level of being is occurring collectively. And Saturn is having to deal with the past. That's what Saturn's job is, to say, look, in the past, that didn't work. That did work. Let's keep that. Let's get rid of the other. That's kind of what Saturn does. It reminds us not to ignore and forget what lessons we should have learned in the past and perhaps still need to learn. And it does this in three different dimensions, I would say. On the first level, when you're not really comfortable with Saturn, before your Saturn return, possibly before your second Saturn return if you're a bit slow in learning. But let's say at the beginning, Saturn really is heavy. It warns us against things and says you won't like that, and it brings with it this negativity. So wherever your Saturn is, whatever planet it's aspecting, whatever house it's operating through, whatever sign it's in, it brings a certain sense of, oh dear, oh I don't like that, with it. Unnecessarily, but that's the typical experience of most people. You don't really like where your Saturn is. Now, of course, as always, there are exceptions to this general rule. I'm a lucky person in a sense that I've got a trine with my Saturn to my moon. So it's just so natural for me to be Saturn-like, which also I've got a Capricorn rising. So Saturn's actually a very good friend with me. I've never found it very difficult to deal with things that had to be done. I've had more of a job later undoing all of the Saturn stuff that I inherited as a very young child. I'm the exception. Most people don't get Saturn until after their Saturn return, when they're 29, 28, 29, that kind of age. So the first thing that Saturn seems to do is to say, ugh, you won't like that, don't do that, that's horrible. And we believe that message generally. Until we grow up. And when we grow up, as I say, approaching your 30s maybe, you'll realize that what you have been avoiding has got a cost. You can't avoid some of these things because they come with a heavy cost. If you don't brush your teeth, you get toothache and you have to lose teeth. So there's a very sort of obvious thing where you do what is necessary to avoid a worse problem, a punishment. That's one of the things of Saturn. Now, when Saturn gets to the sort of more mature level, it understands that it has to rectify what was not done properly before. So there's this tendency to overdo the Saturn, to be a little bit too self-disciplined, a little bit too finger-waggy towards others, until you eventually grow out of that as well. And you get to this level when you're in your older years and you do enough. You do enough to keep discipline sorted out, but not too much to keep yourself squeezed down. And that's the level at which we need to talk about Saturn, where enough but not too much discipline. So bring that into the 25th degree of Aquarius. What does it mean then? Well, Saturn's saying, don't be too emotional. It's not saying, don't be emotional at all. It's just saying, just take it a bit carefully, by all means have your excitements and disappointments to feel some sense of aliveness, to feel some sense of connectedness. You're not going to connect well with other people if you don't express feelings, because they have feelings, they want you to have feelings, so you can't just ditch them totally and expect to have friends and community involvement. So Saturn is actually teaching you the way to integrate within society. That's its job, isn't it? How do we behave such that society will accept us? Saturn's the main teacher of that. And it's saying, well, don't be too emotional. Be a bit expressive of your feelings, but not too much. In the 25th degree of Aquarius, that's what it's saying. And this actually helps us to remember not to deny certain inner feelings that we might be told off about. Like if you've got anger within you and you deny it, then you become passive aggressive, actually, and people get angry with you instead. That's not healthy. If you become blind to your emotional needs and you don't look after them, then some part of your body will come out and say, no, that's not okay. You're not in balance. So Saturn in the 25th of Aquarius is saying, have a look at your emotionality. Take responsibility for it and don't deny it. Express it in a reasonable, controlled manner, suitable with your social group. Not too much, not too little. And then you will move to a level where you can choose whether or not to express your emotions. That's maturity. That's spiritual wisdom.